The oceans are full of wonderful and fascinating marine creatures, most of which remain a complete mystery to marine biologists. Today, for this video, we decided to put on the old Captain Cousteau's hat in order to take you with us for an abyssal dive. You will discover new species, strange and dangerous creatures, but also surprising forms of life, which you would not have even suspected the existence. So grab your diving suit and get ready for the big dive, because the next 10 minutes will be very different. Let's go! The old sea wolves and other experienced captains of boats know pertinently that the bottom of the oceans are populated with a myriad of creatures, all more strange and wonderful than the others. And it is precisely this kind of creatures that you are going to see on this sequence. So put on your pressure suit and follow us for a little stroll in the oceanic abysses. Here we are in the middle of the Mariana Trench, more than 10 kilometers deep, and the pressure reaches 1100 atmospheres in some places. However, despite this tremendous pressure and the almost total absence of light, life literally teems in these abysses, and you would be surprised at the improbable encounters you can have there. Admire this incredible purplish-colored creature which vaguely resembles the severed head of a rooster, with a beak and a crest. It is this appearance, which is quite singular, that earned him the name of Headless chicken monster. Nevertheless, the small creature, which rarely exceeds 25 centimeters in length, is not really monstrous, quite the contrary, because this curious marine animal is only a simple representative of the species of holothurians, commonly called sea cucumbers. You won't find any other animal more inoffensive and calm than these brave marine pickles, and this headless chicken monster is certainly no exception to the rule. The oceans are full of the most bizarre and unlikely life forms, and we have only explored a tiny fraction of them yet. The scientific community claims that there are some 10 million species still unknown to this day, most of which would be of marine origin. And the most optimistic among them even speak of more than 100 million species that there are still to be discovered. On this sequence, you will discover one of these marine species quite recently listed, since the first specimen was only observed in 2007. And you will see that it is really unique in every way. Here is the Teuthydodrilus May, a marine worm that lives at a depth between 2,000 and 3,000 meters and whose body structure is almost unique in the world. This worm indeed presents several appendages at the level of its head, which gives it appearance of a mutant squid when it is swimming. It is because of these tentacles that the Teuthydodrilus is called squidworm. This curious marine creature can measure up to 9 centimeters long and feeds exclusively on marine snow, a kind of continuous rain composed of organic detritus, which falls from the upper layers of the ocean. Among the creatures of the deep, there is a whole legion of marine monsters whose path you would certainly not want to cross. The Bathysaurus ferox is certainly part of it, and you only have to see its patient mouth to realize it soon enough. Also called the deep-sea lizardfish, this animal lives at the depth between 600 and 3,500 meters, which makes the hypothesis of meeting it one day on the beach more than improbable. Fortunately, because even if this abyssal fish rarely exceeds 70 centimeters in length, it is still a ferocious carnivore that literally jumps on everything that moves, including its own fellow fish. Its mouth, filled with several rows of razor-sharp fangs, allows it to shred its prey in less time than it takes to say it. The deep-sea lizardfish is thus a formidable predator of the abysses, capable of hunting with a lightning and deadly attack, and which does not really leave any chance to its unfortunate prey. Let's move on to a completely different kind of sea creature with a very curious fish that is unlike anything you have ever seen. Meet the sarcastic fringehead, a very sarcastic name indeed when you admire the beast. This bizarre fish is distinguished by its surprisingly large and colored mouth, which gives it a rather frightening aspect, especially when it opens it completely, thus deploying very sharp fangs. This small fish, which lives between 3 and 70 meters deep, is one of the most ferocious marine animals, attacking everything that moves without the slightest hesitation, even when it is an animal much bigger than him. Indeed, the sarcastic French head is only 30 centimeters long at the most, but its extreme aggressiveness has already become legendary, especially among divers who know that it is a fearless fish that should not be messed with, at the risk of suffering painful bites. Let's now move on to a sequence that certainly does not lack bite, the proof and pictures with this mysterious fish with an almost human dentition. Yes, what you see is indeed a real fish, which was caught in a saltwater creek in South Carolina. The fishermen who brought up this unlikely catch were completely stunned when they discovered its mouth full of teeth almost identical to human incisors and molars. This discovery, which could leave you completely perplexed, is not a discovery at all, because this species of fish, named sheep's head, has been known for a long time. The old sea wolves and the steamboat cooks love its unctuously delicate flesh, although they have some reservations about its head, precisely because of its strange teeth. However, it is this same dentition that allows the round sheep's head to feed, since it feeds almost exclusively on mollusks and crustaceans with thick shells. Thanks to its thick and very hard teeth, it can indeed easily crush its prey, even the toughest and most robust. Our great abyssal epic takes us to meet the most unusual and strange creatures off the ocean floor, such as this very curious fish that you will discover on this sequence. Caught by chance by a young Norwegian of 19 years old, this fish is certainly enough to scare you, with its huge eyeballs and its prehistoric aspect. The young fisherman who brought up this amazing catch almost fell into the water when he discovered the terrifying creature that his line had brought up. But beyond its aspect, which is certainly very frightening, this animal is in fact totally harmless and does not represent any threat for the man. It is rather the opposite, since this fish, called the grenadier or rat-tailed fish, is almost threatened with extinction because of the overfishing of which it is the object these last years. Its flesh being rather well appreciated by the fine gourmets, the grenadier thus undergoes an excessive fishing in certain areas of the globe and thus risks to disappear. But fortunately for him, this fish of the abysses can always take refuge in the dark depths of the ocean, which remain completely out of reach for the fisherman. Here is another nightmare creature that haunts the ocean floor, and that you certainly wouldn't want to catch in your nets by accident. Look at this strange anguille-form creature of a spectral pallor, and whose terrifying face is totally devoid of eyes. But if it has no eyeballs, this frightfully ugly animal has nevertheless a beautiful mouth, full of fearsome and enormous sharp fangs, and ready to tear apart everything that would pass near them. Captured off the Malaysian coast by skilled fishermen, this creature would most probably be a fish of the Gobidae family, known for their very strange appearances. The latter live most of the time in brackish and muddy waters, where the visibility is almost null, which would explain the amazing absence of eyes in their faces. But in spite of this dreadful dentition, which reminds of predators, this fish is perfectly harmless, since like all gobies, it feeds almost exclusively on worms and small fish. Some fishermen sometimes make real miracle catches, but there are others who bring up some pretty good phenomena from the bottom of the water. This is the case for this Thai fisherman, for example, who caught a completely amazing fish since it has the face of a human being. Look at this improbable creature whose head looks very much like the face of a man, with eyes, a nose, a mouth with lips, and even eyebrows. This strange fish is in fact a Uranoscopidae, a species of fish which have their eyes placed above their skulls and which thus seem to always look up. Their huge head is also provided with a large mouth, which is also oriented upwards, which gives its vague aspect of human face. These fish are quite small, since the largest specimens are barely 90 centimeters long, but they are no less formidable. The Uranoscopidae are indeed endowed with two terrible venomous spines behind their opercules and just above their pectoral fins, and some of them can even emit electric shocks. It is therefore not a good idea to come across these fish in the wild, because you might have a very bad time. Did you know that there are more than 500 different species of sharks that have been identified around the world? They range from the smallest specimens, which measure barely 17 centimeters, to the giants of the deep, which can reach 20 meters, as is the case of the impressive whale shark. This shark is found in all the world's ocean and can be seen at depths of 200 meters and more, although it prefers to swim in the abyss, up to 2,000 meters below the surface. The specimen you see in these images is a 3-meter-long fake Catshark that was caught off the coast of Scotland by marine biologists. As you can see, this marine animal has a very particular aspect, with a large head and a huge mouth, but very small eyes that are not very efficient and only provide a rather poor view. Nevertheless, this deep sea shark does not really need a good sight, since the abyssal environment in which it evolves is completely dark. It therefore navigates using internal sensors whose secret scientists have still not managed to understand the mechanisms that govern them. The mystery of the false Catshark is not yet ready to be solved, as it is the case for most of the strange animals that inhabit the abyss. And to finish this fascinating video on a phantasmagorical note, we have concocted a sequence that will make you think for a long time about the mysteries of our oceans and their abyssal depths. Here is an authentic newt mistakenly fished off the icy coasts of Iceland, and which is currently exposed in a disused building in the city of Sioux Falls, South Dakota. This fishman is indeed the male of a mermaid, and the research is still in progress at the moment. In order to find his female, the discovery of a couple of this species would indeed be a world first, and the perfect opportunity for marine biologists to study these legendary creatures. Well, I hope you didn't believe us on this one, because we were just joking with you, my dear friends. This newt obviously doesn't exist, just like the mermaids, because unless you live in the fictional universe of the Pirate of the Caribbean, you can't see how you could meet this kind of imaginary creatures. But of course, this does not prevent the bottom of the oceans from concealing completely opaque and unfathomable mysteries which we may not even imagine, and which are still to be discovered. Now, tell us in the comments what you think about these incredible marine creatures which populate the abyssal depths of our oceans. Don't forget to subscribe and click here to watch another of our videos.